to join together to ensure that in the next 5 years, we can create a government of whom we are proud. We are here tonight to recognize that we have a candidate in Miss or Senator Shamfa Kojo, who we know we can send to the Parliament on a mission to uphold the ideals of Tobago and ensure the rights of Tobagonians to be represented in Parliament is well done. Ladies and gentlemen, it is not a hapstance duty. The duty of participating in the function of elections and ensuring that you, your household, your family, and your community is well taken care of by a representative who you choose is centuries old. It is a tradition for which people have fought over the years, which has given to people who took their responsibilities seriously the best quality of life they could have under the government they have selected. It is a tradition that we have come to and which we enjoy in Trinidad and Tobago and which we must hold dear. Tonight, we stand once more on the main streets of Plymouth. We came to you in 2010, and the result was another government. And then when we came to you in 2013, you were clear that that party and that government no longer represented your best interests, and the results were interesting. We had a situation in which governance of the Tobago House of Assembly was placed in the hands of Orville London and his team, where we had a 12-0 victory for the People's National Movement. The tradition is being exercised again. And here we are in 2015 with September the 7th dedicated as the day on which you will make that choice to determine your government. Ladies and gentlemen, the evaluation of the government in place is the first step to determining what you do next. And I'm sure that no evaluation, by no measure, can they receive a positive mark from the population. And I have walked in Plymouth and I've heard people say things, and I know that Plymouth, Bethesda, just as the rest of Tobago West, the rest of Tobago, and the rest of Trinidad and Tobago is totally dissatisfied, and the Kamala regime is out of favor with the population. And therefore, if that is the situation, we are aware that on coming into office, there was an early betrayal of the elderly, in which the expectations that we were led to have, that people over 60 would receive a certain salary or pension. We remember that was one of the first disappointments. We remember next that when we look at our system of administration, we saw where a young, inexperienced, uneducated person was taken and made head of the security system in this Trinidad and Tobago. And we registered another disappointment. Then we looked and we saw the establishment of the Ministry of Tobago Development and the way in which it proceeded to act. We knew that that was another betrayal. When we sought to examine with them the agreement we should have as to what is the system of governance for Tobago within the nation of Trinidad and Tobago, we faced another betrayal because Kamala and her regime just exercised us. They walked up and down, had the meetings, and then determined that they will follow their own regime. Ladies and gentlemen, we went on to get Section 34, in which the protection of the state, as it were, the protection of the legislature, the protection of the government was placed at the hands of people who stood accused of violating our rules for procurement and management of public funds. In the face of that Section 34, we are thrown at the head of a minister, Minister Volney, you would remember. And ladies and gentlemen, interestingly, when Minister Justice Volney fell into place, stepped someone who had connections to this community. But it wasn't very long before that person also was fired. Soon, we saw the behavior of our own representative, Mr. Baker, or should I say Dr. Baker. And Dr. Baker proceeded to violate our understandings of governance in Tobago. He proceeded to violate our expectations of our representative. And up and down in the parliament and in the streets of Tobago, every time he had a podium, what came out of it was disrespect for Tobago, disrespect for the chief secretary, disrespect for the Tobago House of Assembly. And then we now know that Dr. Baker is no more on the scene. So we are in a situation where the government, by its own action and by its own falling out, have rendered itself incapable, have rendered itself unqualified to administer our affairs. And we have the opportunity tonight to sit together, parley together, and come to the only conclusion we can come to, that the Kamla regime cannot represent us from the perspective of receiving our vote for a representative in the parliament. But more than that, that alone is not enough reason. Because as if that alone is not enough reason, we have been blessed by being able to select and watch a lady of the soil of Tobago. In Shamfa Kojo, we have an individual who was tried and tested, who got the opportunity to go into the Senate as a representative of the People's National Movement. And that young lady has distinguished herself. I am told that she exercised the right to speak on our behalf 81 times in the Senate. And she didn't do that in front of children. It wasn't like a teacher teaching our infant class. She was there in competition with people who think they are serious warriors in the political arena. She was there facing Ram Logan. She was there facing Tim Gopi Singh. She was there facing our big man, I don't want to say that, but she was there facing the Minister of Works, Mr. Rambachan. And she had to deal with these people in the context of she being the only representative from Tobago in the Senate, facing these people. And she carried herself with great merit. She made all of us proud with the delivery that she was able to do, the thought that she was able to put into her contributions, and certainly the value and worth she gave to the debates in the parliament. Ladies and gentlemen, so we have on one side a party and a team which has discredited themselves, and we have a person who has been selected, who have shown her value and has come to agree that she can stand as our representative. And I'm sure we'll all agree that she is qualified and worthy of our support. But Shamfa doesn't stand on her own. She came at a time when she had the good fortune to have another woman of credit from the Tobago East, Miss Ayana Webster-Roy. Another young woman who has distinguished herself in the task that she has faced, the positions she has held, and certainly the projects she has undertaken. And when we put these two people together, we know that we are sending a worthy team into the parliament. We know that these people are going to stand on the credit and culture of Tobago. We can rest assured that they haven't been tried and tested. They will hold to the merit that we can expect. We are now 17 days away from the election. How many? 16, I'm corrected. This time is running faster than I thought. And in 16 days, we'll have the opportunity to register not only our disgust with the Kamla regime, but our approval of the two candidates that have been selected in Tobago. But there is still more reason to support these two. These two are part of the People's National Movement team. The People's National Movement that has delivered on yesterday the kind of manifesto that speaks to a compact with the people that should give every individual, every family, every community, and certainly the Tobago community comfort that things are going to be better. We have heard in that manifesto a pledge to full internal self-government for Tobago. We have seen in that pledge a situation for the lowering of taxes on consumer goods and VAT. We have seen a commitment to family. We have seen a commitment to education. We have seen a commitment to sport. We have seen a commitment to better governance. And we have seen a commitment to ensuring that decision-making is based on science and data that is available. We have also heard the Prime Minister-to-be guaranteeing us that that government shall be stable. We see, in contrast to that, which Kamla has given us, of changing 20-odd ministers in a short matter of 5 years. And we can know and rest assured that come September 7th, a governance group, a team of people coming out of the bowels of the population who are going to adhere to the best principles of accountability, the best principles of democracy, the best principles, and following what has been established even as this nation was set up. The principles of the PNM. We are going to have the satisfaction of having one more time a member of the population of Tobago, a man out of Tobago, becoming the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago. And I want to know, just as we in Plymouth not stupid, just as we in Tobago West not stupid, I am sure Tobago people are not so stupid as to have the opportunity to choose between Kamla and Dr. Keith Rowley and choose Kamla. I am sure even if all the other things weren't true, just as we gave Robinson his opportunity, I am sure that Tobago will give Keith Rowley his opportunity to be Prime Minister and of service to the people of Tobago. It doesn't come often. And when such an opportunity comes, it would not be Keith Rowley holding that opportunity. It must be the whole population of Tobago holding that opportunity to give the best qualified, the strongest individual in the parliament, the parliamentarian with the most experience, the opportunity to lead that parliament. And if you come with all of that, and you have your bare sentiment following that movement, and you have a movement of the experience of the PNM, you have the individuals of the caliber we have said, and then you're facing them with the worst and most corrupt government we have ever had in Trinidad and Tobago. Ladies and gentlemen, the choice is simple. They say we can't stupid big. We can't take bull the fee. in the night to look for what we can see as clear as day. Ladies and gentlemen, on September 7th, I am sure that you are sure what you have to do. For your sake, for the children's sake, for the community of Plymouth Bethesda's sake, for Tobago West and all of Tobago and Trinidad and Tobago, vote PNM on September the 7th. I want to suggest further that we know this community. We see this community in confusion. We see that all those, you know, when the election time come around, all of us know who come down the road in the yellow shirt, who change their yellow shirt 2 o'clock, and who go home and change their yellow shirt again at 6 o'clock, as we know. But this time they're confused. This time there is nothing on the other side. The blue shirts don't exist. They don't stand for anything. All we know that they stand for is a betrayal of our interests. The yellow shirts failed, and they are coming again after neglecting us for 3 years, 4 years, and they're disappearing. And we know there is nothing there. But I want to suggest that we don't treat them badly. I want to suggest that we open our arms and talk to them morning and evening on the bayside, on the road, in the church, and in the shop. Let us make sure we speak to those people and bring them all in. Because one of the things that we must have is a communion based on this community. And if you have communion in this community, and you could join them to what our efforts are, it is better for us that we join together with our brothers and sisters and carry them with us as we go into the next kingdom under Keith Rowley and the People's National Movement. Ladies, I make that request, and I urge you to bring them with you. Tonight, it has been my pleasure, and as I leave, I want to urge you one more time. I know it's not hard. I want to urge you to ensure that on the morning of September 8th, Shamfa Kojo is your elected representative. Keith Rowley is your elected Prime Minister.
Good evening. PNM Posse, good evening. That was your own local boy, Mr. Rennie Dumas. Let's hear a round of applause for Mr. Dumas again. Before we proceed this evening, allow me to recognize in our midst your area representative for Plymouth Golden Lane, Mr. Godwin Adams, as well as our chairman for the Tobago West constituency, Mr. Stanford Calendar. It is now my pleasure to introduce to the microphone a rose in the People's National Movement, a rose in the Tobago Council of the People's National Movement. Ladies and gentlemen, in true PNM style, join with me in welcoming Dr. Denise Sawyer-Fat Angus, our Public Relations Officer, to address us at this time.
Oh, PNM coming! PNM coming! PNM
evening again. Red Army. I would have previously recognized the Chief Secretary. I want to do it again, and political leader, the Honorable Orville London. Let me hear you. Your own area representative, Mr. Godwin Adams. We have the director of our campaign, Mr. Stanford Calendar. And of course, the campaign of Tobago East, the campaign manager, Mr. Rennie Dumas, and the campaign manager of the West, I see him, Mr. William McKay. Red Army, how are you? Red and ready. Brothers and sisters, the People's National Movement would have gone through an intense and methodical and highly analytical screening process, a process that would have confirmed 40 candidates to be led by our very own Dr. Keith Christopher Rowley. And last Saturday, if you sat there viewing them as the candidates were presented, I am sure you all felt very proud, seeing the caliber of candidates across 41 constituencies that we have on a People's National Movement banner. Indeed, in Tobago, we too are very proud that we were able to offer two of them, two highly qualified young women who have already demonstrated in their regular lives an unwavering commitment to serving people. We have Ayana Webster-Roy in the East, who as a community development coordinator would have traversed the island and interacted with villages, village councils, and further championed the needs with providing programs to empower the people throughout communities to enhance their own quality of life. In the West, we have your next representative, Ms. Shantha Kajo, who in addition to interacting with young people to prepare them in transforming their lives, she would have also represented you in Parliament as a senator. And whereas those you chose in 2010, Baker and Topping from the Tobago Organization of the People and the Tobago Forwards, whereas they were silent as the dead in Parliament, Shantha Kajo spoke over 80 times. And that has certainly demonstrated her commitment to service and her passion to protect Tobago's future and all Tobagonians. We therefore in the Tobago Council feel very confident that both of them have solid credentials and they certainly come with experience and commitment to service. Brothers and sisters, this election has brought tears of joy and at the same time a deepening of disquiet to my soul. Tears of joy because finally, after 5 years of pain, anguish, neglect, shame, and more pain, the opportunity for relief is at our doorstep. But I feel disquiet as I see how many persons are still indicating that they are undecided about our future. Brothers and sisters, sometimes we have to go back in history in order to see clarity of our future. And I want you to take a walk back into history with me. Brothers and sisters, in 2010, this country was convinced that the People's National Movement was the worst government at the time, and that Patrick Manning was corrupt because of Calder Hart. Many were convinced by the then opposition led by Kamla Prasad-Basesa, that someone will have to be charged and certainly do some time in jail. In 2010, even some of our own PNM people, along with the gatekeepers, came out in large numbers to protect the country from the Calder Heart phenomenon. 5 years later, as I stand here with you tonight, Calder Heart has never been charged. The investigation that you in the future on never happened. And after 5 years, Calder Heart looks like a preschooler compared to what has passed for governance in this country over the last 5 years. Brothers and sisters, the Kamla Prasad-Bissessar regime in 2010 convinced this country that they were the better choice, that they would bring prosperity to the nation and a better quality of life for most. 5 years later, I ask you all, were they indeed the better choice? Right here in Tobago, we also voted. You've also voted against the People's National Movement and for the promise of internal self-government that they dangled while they paraded the street asking for your vote. And I'm asking you, did they deliver that to you? These are the real questions to be asked in this election. The country exchanged the Calder Heart phenomenon for no less than 300 atrocities, lies, deception, blunders, and missteps from this UNC government. From the first 3 months in office, the UNC-led coalition under the leadership of Kamla Prasad-Bissessar illegally, in many cases, terminated thousands of workers at all levels, from URP and CPEP workers to contractors and professionals in public administration and in state agencies. They followed that with the significant underfunding of the Tobago House of Assembly, key programs like the scholarship programs to educate our youth, the caregivers programs for elderly, CPEP and URP votes, and of course, we do have a vote for the CPEP and URP funds that we get, unlike what Christine Moore has been saying. Our housing program has also been significantly underfunded by them. And these are only just a few examples. They continued this for the last 5 years to underfund us, and this assembly has had to take hard decisions to reallocate and perhaps suppress some of our programs to ensure that we can take care of the youth and their future, that we can take care of the vulnerable, and that CPEP and URP workers certainly can continue to feed their families. Many of our development projects throughout the communities had to be placed on a priority list. I am sure you too here were affected in Plymouth. Brothers and sisters, it is the rampant corruption throughout ministries in Trinidad that had the Auditor General report that it is billions and not just millions that are unaccounted for since 2010. We must not forget the disrespect paid by Ms. Kamla Prasad-Bissessar to our Caribbean brothers and sisters when she said Trinidad and Tobago is not an ATM machine. This has resulted in strained relationships across the region. We must not forget the numerous bouts of international shame felt as the scandals of Jack Warner, Section 34, and even our very own Vanilla Allen Toppin in Parliament. We became the laughing stock of the world and even became case studies at universities. Kamla Prasad-Bissessar must have made history around the region and perhaps the world for terminating and or losing the most ministers per administration per capita. Brothers and sisters, that is not effective leadership. Firing almost your whole cabinet is not effective leadership. If anything, it demonstrates poor leadership qualities of the Prime Minister. It demonstrates her repeated misjudgment in choosing persons for the job. It demonstrates mismanagement because many times it is not only, she did not treat with it before the scandals met the newspapers. It is only after the scandals ended up in the newspapers, although there was a perception that she knew about them from before, that she did anything about them. It demonstrates a lack of respect from her own team, who after seeing the first 3 of them go, could care less, and they continued to do what they wanted to do and refused to straighten up. But what is even more damning is that there are at least 27 open investigations surrounding these resignations and terminations. The Prime Minister needs to tell us about Section 34. She needs to tell us about the Life Sport program and the 34 million that they have expended there. She needs to tell us about Emailgate and why most of the commissioners at the Integrity Commission would have resigned over it. She needs to tell us about Prison Gate and Westgate. And she needs to tell us about THA Gate because the Chief Secretary is still awaiting her response. THA Gate is where Kamala Prasad-Bissessar, after getting letter after letter from the Chief Secretary, continued to support Delman Baker in the systematic undermining and attempts to dismantle the Tobago House of Assembly. Madam Prime Minister, the people of Tobago are awaiting your response to no Watergate, no Airbridge Gate, no Tobago Autonomy Gate, and overall the neglect of Tobago Gate. And I have to ask, can you all believe that she is asking for 5 more years? Would you give her 5 more years? Absolutely. And what is even good is that the decision for 5 more years is not hers. The decision is yours on September 7th, coming out to vote. I must admit, though, that despite all we read about and watch in the news, despite the comparison between Color Heart and the last 5 years, persons are still undecided. There are undecided who feel that Tobago should be further in its development, and my response is, I agree with you. That is exactly why you should vote for the People's National Movement. It is the only political party that would have taken a serious and official internal decision to address Tobago's quest for internal self-government. At a party's convention where many of our high officials, our decision makers in the party, they would have had a meeting where they unanimously supported the Chief Secretary's motion that he took to them to make Tobago's quest for autonomy a priority for the People's National Movement. And therefore, the leader, Dr. Keith Rowley, is not going in there without support. He is going in there with a mandate from the People's National Movement to take care of Tobago's people's business. There are undecided who say that the Tobago House of Assembly should step in and address the situation with no buses on the road, no water to bathe, and protection from crime, even though all of those issues are the responsibility of the central government and they did nothing. And my response to those people is, that is exactly why you should vote for the People's National Movement. Dr. Rowley's plan to lift local government to the level of the Assembly and to address the Tobago House of Assembly's greater autonomy will give us both the responsibility, the authority, and the funding to treat with all those issues. Brothers and sisters, people who don't want to do something or be responsible for making a choice will always find a reason not to do it. But I'm saying that this time around, you must make a choice. You must make a choice to vote against the most corrupt government that this country has ever seen. You must make a choice to vote against the poor leadership of Kamala Prasad-Bissessar. you must make a choice to vote against the UNC and their partners in the Tobago Organization of the People and the Tobago Forwards. You must make a choice to vote for the Balisay and the PNM as the only party that assures your vote is one against the UNC. To my PNM brothers and sisters who sometimes feel your neighbors can vote for you and that we have already won, I want to tell you that as long as you stay home, that you will be voting in support of the UNC, even though your heart is in a different place. And so therefore, I urge you to cast your vote on September 7th. Call your neighbors, get your family and your friends to cast their votes. Get up and get out by 7 a.m. Cast your vote for Ayana Webster-Roy in Tobago East and Shamfa Kajo in Tobago West. And by 7 p.m., we can rejoice and sing with one voice, great is the PNM, great is the PNM, great is the PNM, and we have prevailed. Thank you.
We voting for PNM is the best thing. Ring, ting, ting, election bell ring. We voting for PNM is the best thing.
Ladies and gentlemen, there are those who believe that talk lasts for 9 days. And there are those who also believe that our memories last for the same span. But as Dr. Angus aptly reminded us this evening of all the missteps and all the questions that this government still has to answer, but yet still has the audacity to ask us for 5 more years. It is my pleasure to welcome amongst us, coming from her Leketo meeting, the woman that we are going to appoint, the one that we are going to vote in Tobago West, the standard bearer for the People's National Movement in Tobago West. Ms. Shamfa Kajo has joined us at the head table. Let's give a rousing PNM member. PNM, welcome to Ms. Kajo. At this time, people of Plymouth, I would like to introduce to the microphone your boy, your area representative, the man who has kept it locked down in Plymouth Golden Lane, Mr. Godwin Adams.
Oh, PNM coming. PNM coming. PNM coming.
Thank you, Melissa, for that warm welcome to the podium. Let me recognize in our midst the Deputy Political Leader, Tobago Affairs, and Chief Secretary of the Tobago House of Assembly, Honorable Orville London. Let me also recognize Councillor Dr. Denise Sawyer-Angus, also at the head table. To be recognized is former parliamentarian Rennie Stretch Dumas. Also at the head table is former member of parliament, Tobago West, Stanford Calendar. The Red Brigade, PNM people, I am sure that you're red and ready. You've got to keep your eyes on the target. So let me say a special good evening to you all. And to say a special good evening to all the people who are within earshot, those who are in their living rooms, those who are in their bedrooms, listening to the voice of the People's National Movement and the messages that we will bring to you this evening. Brothers and sisters, let me thank you for the opportunity given me a third term in office in the Tobago House of Assembly, and for that I'm grateful. Let me also indicate to you that I'm here this evening also to endorse Sharfa Ashaki Kojo as candidate for Tobago West and soon to become the representative for Tobago West. Ladies and gentlemen, this is not a THA election. This is a general election. So we have to fight generally throughout Trinidad and Tobago for supremacy to seize the reins of power in the Parliament of Trinidad and Tobago. And with that said, I want to endorse Shamfa Kojo and to bring her to you this evening as a young and vibrant individual who will be charting the course for many things to happen in Tobago. That lady has a firm direction. That lady has a goal. And I am sure, without a doubt, she will perform greatly in that domain. Ladies and gentlemen, our Tobago House of Assembly, Act 40 of 1996 gives the Tobago House of Assembly responsibilities under the 5th schedule for numerous areas of operation in Tobago. Ladies and gentlemen, it is also my good feeling that under Chief Secretary, the astute leadership of Chief Secretary of London, we have been doing tremendously. And because it's a general election, I will not unfold all our achievements. There are many things that we would have done, and there are many other things that are left to be done. However, we will keep focus and treat with these issues as we go along for the next year and years to come. Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, incursion right and incursion left, ladies and gentlemen, into the duties of the Tobago House of Assembly, the responsibilities of the Tobago House of Assembly. I, as Secretary of the Division of Agriculture, Marine Affairs, Marketing and Environment, faced it brutally, left, right, and center. Let me just indicate to you some of the areas that our good friends on the other side would have done to us over the past years. 5 years of total disrespect for the Tobago House of Assembly. And in my division, we have them encroaching on our duties in the fishing industry. We are responsible for the supporting financially and technically to the fisher folk of Tobago. Now, ladies and gentlemen, these two parliamentarians were there for 5 years. instead of concentrating on those areas of within their purview, there is a 6 schedule, there is a 7 schedule, a lot of work to be done to support the efforts of the Tobago House Assembly to bring the much needed opportunities to the people of Tobago. Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, there also were incursions in areas such as reforestation. There was the reforestation program in the Tobago House of in the central government, which treated with works in Tobago where reforestation is concerned. However, in 2010, the Memorandum of Understanding between the Tobago House of Assembly and central government would have expired. And coming into being was that PP government. And they would have taken the opportunity to exercise the funding of the reforestation program in Tobago and went straight into developing a parallel unit that went into private lands throughout Tobago and operating, doing works where reforestation is concerned. Incursion, again, in the area of agriculture. There were a lot of plans given out by the Ministry of Tobago Development. Last year they did a lot of distribution. I do not know why collaboration could not have taken place with the division. And I feel strongly that they had their duty to do and they should have done their part of the duty and leave the agricultural sector to be developed by the Tobago House of Assembly. Ladies and gentlemen, when I talk to the Tobago House of Assembly, it is important in the general scheme of things, nationally, that we are taken strongly and we are taken into great consideration where the development of the island is concerned. Because I'll tell you, it is important that we in Tobago gain increased autonomy for the Tobago House of Assembly to treat with a lot of issues, a lot of matters under the 5th schedule that we are responsible for, and they are lacking of funding as we speak. We have housing, we have road infrastructure, we have the fishing industry. We would have done tremendous work in those areas. However, we still need the necessary funding to take it further, because the people of Tobago want to be recognized on the map as good citizens that can do things that can impact the world. So, ladies and gentlemen, there were the Forum for Increased Autonomy for Tobago. 41 communities traversed by the forum, by the committee. 3 regional meetings, 1 diasporic meeting in Trinidad, and a convention at Signal Hill Senior Comprehensive. This is what I consider a wide-scale consultation. However, the Attorney General would have just pushed that aside and decided that they should come up with their own Tobago House of Assembly's action. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I want you to really understand how brutal these people are. Because we in the Tobago House of Assembly went through all of those areas, went through all those consultations, and yet we are cast aside. However, the People's National Movement, and I want to play emphasis on the word movement, because when you talk about movement, you're talking about dynamic actions. And the People's National Movement, through its dynamic actions, would have chosen young and dynamic candidates to fight this 2015 general election. In the person of Shamfa Kojo in the west and Ayana Webster-Roy in the east. Two stalwarts, two young people who can do us justice in the Parliament of Trinidad and Tobago. Two persons who don't stick nonsense. Two persons who will fight for us all the time. I must say that I understood that Shamfa Kojo comes Parliament of Trinidad and Tobago and would have spoken 81 times in the Parliament of Trinidad and Tobago. What a strong lady. I could remember Shamfa, as a Tobagonian, is fighting Tobago's business. And this goes to show that she is focused and her eyes are on the ball. So I have all confidence that Shamfa is going to be a great, a superb representative for the people of Tobago. Ladies and gentlemen, in the East, another strong lady. And when you join forces, two heads are better than one. And when they join forces, I know it's going to be a tremendous force because those two ladies are like thunder. So, with that said, I want to further endorse Shamfa Kojo for candidacy in Tobago West and to support Ayana as candidate for Tobago East. And I know for sure that they are going to bring home the pie. So ladies and gentlemen, I want you not to just sit by, talk to your neighbors, talk to your friends, ensure that you bring everybody out. Vote resoundingly for the People's National Movement and the candidate Shamfa Kojo. Ladies and gentlemen, we have no doubt that we will get proper representation, good representation. Just as how we have a stalwart at the head of our Tobago House of Assembly in the person of Orville Delano, London. Because I'll tell you something, I'm sure that all of you would have heard the invasion of the Sagazam seaweed in Speyside and Speyside Beach and Blue Waters Inn. Now, ladies and gentlemen, it takes a man with heart, a man with power to declare Speyside as a disaster zone. Although we are struggling for the much needed funds coming from central government, the Chief Secretary did declare that he will spend $3 million on restoring the beach and to ensure that the people of Speyside are well taken care of. Because the Sagazam weed, it is invading the entire Caribbean. We are just one area or one island in the Caribbean. And I'm telling you that it is it has been codified, and it is some 120 million US dollars to mitigate and to bring some kind of relief to the islands of the Caribbean. So $120 million is approximately 800 or 700 and plus million TT dollars. So you could imagine how the impact is on the economy of Tobago and the Caribbean as a whole. So I want to say to you that we have good people. We have great people. We have people who can stand the test of time. We have young people who will fill the gaps when the older guys go out. I want to say to you that Shamfa and Ayana would have filled that gap for the People's National Movement in a way that is unbelievable. You should hear her expound. You should hear her, see her walk the highways and the byways of Tobago, seeking to meet the people and to join hands with them. She shakes everybody's hands when that she meets. And that is a form of heart. That is a form of cohesiveness that she would have bonded with the people of Tobago West. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to, at this time, once again, endorse Shamfa Kodo, bring her to the people of Plymouth Bethesda. You, the people of Plymouth Bethesda, I offer Shamfa to you. The People's National Movement offers Shamfa to you. And without any doubt, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, there should not be any other choice in this 2015 general election other than Shamfa Kojo and Ayana Webster-Roy. So, ladies and gentlemen, I bring a strong lady, a lady with vigor, a lady who I consider as a standard bearer for the People's National Movement, someone who will go to the Parliament of Trinidad and Tobago and do well, because she has the capacity to do well. Someone who will fight for Tobago's rights, who will fight for things to come to Tobago that Tobagonians deserve. So without a doubt, I have no other one to endorse as the candidate for Tobago West other than Shamfa Ashaki Kojo. So, ladies and gentlemen, I want to implore you this evening that elections are won on election day, and that you should go out and vote resoundingly for the People's National Movement. The symbol is the Balizé. The candidate is Shamfa Kojo in Tobago West and Ayana Webster-Roy in Tobago East. And when all is said, on the night of September 7th, when all the results are being brought in, and we have Shamfa in Tobago West and Ayana in Tobago East prevailing over the other candidates, I want us to stand with a loud voice and say, great is the PNM, great is the PNM, and it shall prevail in the interest of all of us in Trinidad and Tobago. Thank you.
Ayana, PNM Shamfa. Ayana, PNM Shamfa. Ayana, PNM Shamfa. Ayana, PNM Shamfa. One in the east, one in the
Red Army, how you feeling? Plymouth people, how we feeling? Real people do real things, and great people join great parties. As your area representative, Mr. Adams, was expounding, I sat there and I took a look at Shamfa's official flyer with all her information, her vision, everything about Miss Kojo and our great leader. And I say, we have all the right to say great is the PNM. Great people join great parties. So I urge you to make sure you get your copy so that you could show off about the caliber of youth, about the caliber of candidates that we put out in the People's National Movement. Ladies and gentlemen, I am about to introduce to the microphone a powerhouse, a woman that has stood and defended Tobago tirelessly, even when it seems like her counterparts who were elected on the other side to go down and represent us almost wanted to tell her hush him out. But she stood there, she stood her ground, never wavering and always representing even when she was not elected. So ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to present to you the PNM standard bearer, our candidate for Tobago West, the woman who we are going to vote into power to represent us in Tobago West, Ms. Shamfa Ashaki Kojo. Welcome her in true PNM style.
So you must put your hands. We will vote it. PNM is the best. Representativeness.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chairman. Permit me to recognize brothers and sisters in our presence, the political leader of Tobago Affairs, Mr. Orville Delano, London. Allow me to recognize your hard-working representative, Mr. Godwin Adams. Also in our presence, Secretary for Community Development and Culture and PRO of the party, Dr. Denise Sawyer-Fat Angus. Former representative for Tobago, Mr. Rennie Dumas, my dear friend and coach. I also want to recognize former representative for Tobago West also, Mr. Stanford Callender. All the executive members of the party, brothers and sisters, soldiers of the Red Army, residents of the Plymouth area who are joining us for the first time, listeners out there in TV land, friends, supporters, lovers, haters, critics of the People's National Movement, I welcome each and every one of you. Brothers and sisters, I want to thank you for following us on this journey. I want to thank you for joining us in this battle as we strive to restore order and decency and to save our country. Brothers and sisters, this evening, I had the pleasure of walking the Seaview area of Lake Atoll. And just like many of the other areas I've been walking for the past 3 months, I've met so many different people from all walks of life, different beliefs. There are 3 people that stood out to me this evening in Lake Atoll, and I want to make special mention of them. 3 groups of people. The first group, these are the people who stood out at their gaps. They came out of their houses in their red t-shirts. They told us that they were red and ready, and they couldn't wait for September 7th. They are lovers of the People's National Movement and have a fair understanding and appreciation for what the People's National Movement means to this country. These are the right-thinking citizens who come out night after night, just like you and me. So I want to recognize and salute those of you who are here in our presence. And I want to thank them for holding the fort over the years, because it has not been easy. We have suffered for a long 5 years under this government. The People's National Movement have been knocked down, but those people remind us that we haven't been knocked out, and we stand ready to fight in defense of our island and in our country once again. So this evening, I salute those long-standing members and supporters and lovers of the People's National Movement. Brothers and sisters, the second group of people troubled me. Or should I say the second and third group of people troubled me, but let me tell you about the second group. For the most part, they were young people. And many of them, first-time voters, second-time voters, would have told me, I am not voting this year because politics doesn't impact me. Politics doesn't affect me. I get up early in the morning and I go to work. I send my children off to school. Politics have no play on what happens to me. Brothers and sisters, I was forced this afternoon, or I should say I was happy this evening, to ask one gentleman, politics doesn't affect you? You woke up this morning, my friend, and you put on your light switch. You got electricity. You watch TV late in the night? He answered yes. I say, as simple as that seems, that is People's National Movement policy. Some politics, some politician, somebody would have had to work hard to make that possible. Because it is because of People's National Movement policy, we in Tobago could now boast about a sound and reliable source of electricity. It is because of People's National Movement policy we can boast of a dual fuel electricity system down at Cove. It is because of People's National Movement policy there is a Cove eco-industrial estate in the first place. So anyway, I went on to question this young man. I said, you went to high school? He said, yes. He told me which high school he went to. And I said, you went there free or did you have to pay? He went there free. Brothers and sisters, that is because of People's National Movement policy. Because our grandparents and our parents could recall the days when you had to pay to go to school. You had to pay to enter secondary school. And some of them did not have the luxury of going to secondary school. When I explained that to them, he said, well, these are basic things. The government has to do that. And I was brought to understand how the young people of today may not have an appreciation for what we call basics today. Somebody had to work hard to make these things basic or to make these things happen. Because brothers and sisters, those of you in my age group who would have gotten out of secondary school in 1998, 1999, there were no opportunities to further your tertiary education. There was no gate. There was no gate. So those of you who wanted to study, you just had to stay at home and hope and pray that someday you were able to save up the money. Brothers and sisters, there was dollar for dollar at that time. And if you didn't have a dollar, it's no way you could match the government's dollar. Brothers and sisters, the fact that you know a brother, a sister, a girlfriend, an auntie, a niece, a nephew, or even your nenen, because even the older people are taking advantage of Gate 2. That is because of People's National Movement policy. As we look around in our communities, so many young entrepreneurs taking advantage of the Business Development Unit grant. That is all because of People's National Movement policy. We brought you the Business Development Unit grant. We brought you the Enterprise Assistance Fund. We brought you venture capital. We brought you training programs to help you to monetize your skills. A matter of fact, we bring them to you in your community center because that is what the People's National Movement is about. Creating policy to improve lives. So what we consider to be basics today, yesterday they were luxury items, only available to the very rich and the wealthy. So we cannot be ungrateful and we cannot be anemic. We must salute the People's National Movement and give this party its respect for its sound policy. Because as you go from community to community in Tobago, a health center is a stone throw away. A community center is a stone throw away. We can boast of lighted recreational grounds, lighted hard courts. That is based on People's National Movement policy. Brothers and sisters, this evening I beg you to throw your minds back to prior to 2001, before there was People's National Movement leadership in the Tobago House of Assembly. What Tobago looked like. The kinds of goods and services and the quality of goods and services that we now enjoy now is a far cry from where we were in 2001. So my young people who consider these things as basics, ask an older brother, ask an older sister, ask an aunt, and ask a friend. These things were not possible. They did not exist before the PNM. Brothers and sisters, there's a third group of people that I want to spend some time on this evening. And they were all over Lekato, because this is the second or third evening I walked Lekato. And I met some of the very same people. A matter of fact, the last family I spoke with in Lekato falls into this category. And that is a group of people who say, me, I don't mix up in politics. Politics doesn't affect me. A matter of fact, I stay home and I pray to my Jesus and everything will work out fine. I leave it up to my God. The thing gets too nasty now. I'm not participating in politics. Brothers and sisters, may I remind you that it is your fundamental right and your responsibility, your civic duty to lead and change this nation and to maintain order and development in your country. Brothers and sisters, based on our autopsy, you must understand why it is a grave concern to me. And you must understand my disgruntlement in talking to these families. Brothers and sisters, when I hear so many sound-minded, able-bodied, supposedly right-thinking believers or citizens state that their decision to withhold their participation from the political process, it disturbs me. They say, I am not voting. They say they're going to stay home and pray. They have faith because in 2013, some of them stayed home and prayed and everything turned out okay. Brothers and sisters, let me remind you, as much as I admire your conviction, as much as I respect your faith, faith without works is dead. And that is not my say, brothers and sisters. This comes from your good book. And I'm quoting to you from James chapter 2, verses 26. Faith without works is dead. Brothers and sisters, do you believe, or could you imagine, if on election day in January 2013, all the right-thinking citizens, all the believers said, I'm just going to stay home and pray. Could you imagine what our position would be today? Brothers and sisters, elections are not won by hopes and wishes or sitting on the sidelines. Elections are won by votes on election day. So my message to you, my Christian brothers and sisters, my right-thinking citizen, my steadfast believer, your voice is your vote. And your voice is usually that voice of reasoning. If ever your country needed your intercession, the intercession of the believer, the intercession of the Christian, the intercession of the right-thinking citizen, that time is now. If ever your country needed you to place your vote, that time is now. If ever your country needed you to place a conscience vote, that time is now. Believers, if you really understand your position and you know your worth, you would wake up, brothers and sisters, and do your work. Believers, we have a duty to work through civil authority for the advancement of the human good. This is no menial task. It is a huge responsibility because politics determines everything. It affects the nation's job supply. It affects our wealth creation and wealth distribution. It affects down to your food prices. Politics affects land ownership and property rights. Brothers and sisters, politics determines your freedom to speak, your freedom to write, your freedom to serve the internet, your freedom to worship. Brothers and sisters, good citizens, right-thinking people, believers, politics involves the creation of rules and regulations, or must I say legislation, to protect children, to preserve marriages, to tell you what kind of marriages are legal and acceptable and what kind of marriages are not. Are you prepared to let somebody else make that decision for you? Politics determines what happens in your family, from where you go for vacation to where your children go to school. Brothers and sisters, if we are truly our brother's keepers, we'll naturally be concerned about the corrupting morals and influences that pervade the entire nation today. Right-thinking citizens, in our quieter moments, we sit and we think about our future. We all want a country that respects morals and values. We want the opportunities to showcase our skills and our talents. We want systems and procedures that work for all. We want leaders who we could believe their word. We want leaders we could trust. But we cannot achieve any of this by sitting at home, watching and waiting, or lollygagging on the sidelines. Believers, you must wake up and work. Standard bearer, right-thinking citizen, I implore you, the young ones have every confidence in you to do what you know is right. Right-thinking citizen, goodly Christian, fellow believer, I'm calling you out to set the tone, to lift a standard for this nation. This is the commitment of the People's National Movement. So I implore you, brothers and sisters, to join the PNM in this crusade to restore decency, dignity, and to revive democracy in this great nation. I invite you, each and every one of you, to walk with us. I invite you, each and every one of you, to volunteer. I invite you to walk with us. I invite you to help us to recruit more soldiers. I invite you to stand up in defense of your island and defense of your country. Brothers and sisters, let it be known that you are standing up for decency. Let it be known that you are standing up for democracy. Let it be known that you are standing up for morals and ethics in public life. Let it be known, brothers and sisters, that you are doing your part as a good citizen, as a right-thinking person, as a believer for the development of your country. On September, brothers and sisters, on September 7th, you, good believer, I'm counting on you to go out and let your name be called in the numbers. I encourage you to vote the People's National Movement for good governance. Vote the People's National Movement for accountability. Vote the People's National Movement for transparency. Vote the People's National Movement for leaders and representatives of good morals and integrity. Brothers and sisters, the People's National Movement stands strong, firm, and ready to bring this country out of the morass we have found ourselves in. The PNM stands resolute to deliver. We stand resolute to deliver us from the hands of the most callous and insensitive government that has ever led this country. We present ourselves at this time not because it is our turn, but because we have done our homework, and it is our responsibility and it is our duty to do what is right and what is best in the interest of our people and our country. The People's National Movement stands ready to grant full autonomy and authority to the Tobago House of Assembly. We stand ready in our resolve We stand ready and resolute to resolve the long-standing problem of air and sea transportation, as mentioned by my good friend Dr. Soyafat Angus. Brothers and sisters, we stand ready to resolve this matter of air and sea transportation that pervades and destroys the inter-island connection between Trinidad and Tobago. We stand strong in our commitment to improving the business environment in Tobago, and we hold firm to our commitment to resolve once and for all this long-standing matter of land titles and deed registration that affects wealth generation and the transfer of land for the people of Tobago. And the list goes on and on. I invite you to log on to the Facebook, to log on to the party's website and take a good look at our manifesto and take a good look at what we have planned for the people of Trinidad and Tobago. If the PNM was ever ready to lead this nation in the history of our entire existence, brothers and sisters, that time is now. The PNM stands ready to serve. The PNM stands ready to lead. The PNM stands ready to represent. We stand ready to restore our institution. We stand ready to reunite our people. We stand ready and willing to rebuild our nation. Brothers and sisters, we are ready to set this country back on a growth path. We are ready to facilitate soundness and stability back to the people of this country and to our great nation. A great country, my brothers and sisters, deserves a great party. Good people deserve good governance. Diligent people deserve dignified leadership. And who better to bring that to our great nation than the People's National Movement under the intelligent and inspiring leadership of our great leader, Dr. Keith Christopher Rowley. Brothers and sisters, who better to speak some sense into Diana Webster-Roy? Who better to stand up and fight in your defense in Tobago West than Shamfa Ashaki Kojo? Who better to stand up for the people of Trinidad and Tobago? So vote the PNM for prosperity. Vote the PNM for peace and stability. Vote the PNM for proper representation in this country. Brothers and sisters, this is no simple request. It is a clarion call. A matter of fact, it is an SOS calling on you to save a nation under siege, to save a nation in distress. I call on you, right-thinking citizen. I call on you, firm believer. I call on you that when the roll is called on the 7th of September, you would make it your business and be in the number. Let's not be remembered as the people who had the opportunity to do what was right and did nothing or did otherwise. Brothers and sisters, your country is depending on you. Brothers and sisters, your community is leaning on you. Brothers and sisters, your children and grandchildren are hoping that you will come through for us and do the right thing. So on the 7th of September, you right-thinking citizen, you God-fearer, you believer, I beg you to get up out of your bed early and go down to the polling station and give us a conscience vote. Make an intelligent decision. Stand up for decency, democracy, and dignity in this nation. Restore peace and order and stability to the great people of Trinidad and Tobago. Once again, I say, a great country deserves a great party, and no party greater, more suitable, more ready than the People's National Movement. So when the roll is called on the 7th of September, I call on you once again to be in the number. So at the end of the day, we will sing in one voice. We will gather here on Market Square, and we will rejoice. And we will sing, great is the PNM, great is the PNM, great is the PNM. And by the grace of God, we shall prevail. I thank you.
People in the West, are you ready? Warrior, Shampa Kojo, Shampa, people. So you must put your hands. We go vote in the West. Who's the best in
Plymouth people, tell me something. Did we do a great job in choosing our candidate for Tobago West? Did we do a good job in choosing Shamfa Jackie Kojo as our candidate for Tobago West? And as she reminded us believers, faith without action is dead. No matter how much I prayed, when I wanted to pass an exam, I had to show up and show out on the day of the examination. So on election day, September 7th, ladies and gentlemen, to all those who are hearing my voice, whether it be in Plymouth or those on Radio Land, we must all make it our duty to come out and to flood the polls and to vote resoundingly for the People's National Movement. Over the years, the People's National Movement has invested in our young people. We see the products, we see the fruits of our labor, we see the fruits of that investment and that vision of our captain over the past years, Mr. Orville Delano London. A leader that does not just throw his young people to the wolves at town meetings. A leader who does not encourage disrespect. A leader who is a no-nonsense leader. A leader who leads, who truly leads. A man who is well respected even before he became a politician. So ladies and gentlemen, in true PNM style, join me as I welcome our political leader, Mr. Orville Delano London, Chief Secretary of the Tobago House of Assembly.
Oh, PNM coming. PNM coming. PNM coming. Voting PNM on election day. Voting PNM on election day.
Plymouth, you're looking good. This reminds me of 2013, and that is a good sign. Let me take the opportunity to recognize on the stage a young lady who, over the past 2.5 months, has confirmed what we knew more than 5 years ago, that this young lady had the caliber, had the commitment, had the integrity, had the capacity to represent us, the people of Tobago, at the highest level. We invested in her 5 years ago, and that investment has reaped rich dividends. And that is why I can stand here at this podium in Plymouth and wholeheartedly endorse our candidate for Tobago West. And in 16 days, the representative for Tobago West, Ms. Shamfa Kojo. I would like to take the opportunity to also recognize a very hard-working public relations officer. There's a lot of work in the background and is responsible for much of our success, Dr. Denise Fernandez. And I'd like to also recognize 3 individuals who are crucial to the success, or 3 other individuals who are crucial to the success of this election. Because many times you see us up front and we are the face and the voice of the People's National Movement. But we cannot be successful, and the party cannot be successful except these individuals play a critical role. And therefore, in that context, I would like to recognize 2 former parliamentarians and cabinet ministers, Mr. Stanford Calendar, who is the overall manager of our campaign, and Mr. Rennie Dumas, who is the manager of the Tobago East campaign. I'd also like us to recognize and to pay tribute to Mr. William McKay, the other manager. And a pleasant good evening to members of the PNM family gathered here and to all who are listening at home to 91.9 FM. Brothers and sisters, my mood changes as I move from event to event. When I was in Trinidad last Saturday, and I saw the tens of thousands of people gathered at Woodford Square, I was in celebratory mood. And when I went to Roxborough yesterday, and I saw the thousands of people who had braved the inclement weather to join the PNM bandwagon at that event, that rally in Roxborough, I was still in celebratory mood. But then as I realized, brothers and sisters, that after 64 months, we only have 16 days to go to decision day, I must confess that I am in a very reflective and serious mood. Because I'm asking our brothers and sisters, in those 16 days, what are you going to do? What am I going to do? What, in fact, are the decisions that we have to make? What is the posture that we have to adopt over the next 16 days to ensure that we make the right decisions? And I'm saying to those of us who have not yet made up their minds, and even those of us who have made up our minds, to strengthen our resolve by reflection over the next 16 days. Because over the next 16 days, we must in fact reflect on what has transpired in the country over the last 64 months. We must reflect on what transpired in this country in Trinidad and in Tobago. We must look at what has been done to us in the case of the central government and what has been done for us in the case of the Tobago House of Assembly. And what we in the People's National Movement would have done is to put before the people of Trinidad and Tobago two documents. Document number one is what I call the Book of Atrocities, the Book of Betrayal, the Book of Bad Memories, the Book of Knowledge. Knowledge of the People's National Movement, the United National Congress, and what they would have done to the people of Trinidad and Tobago. As was mentioned earlier, this is 300 mistakes, 300 atrocities, 300 incidents of betrayal of the trust of the people of Tobago over the last 64 months. And in fact, we have a little competition, because I'm certain that when you read this book, especially we in Tobago, we can add to it. Although every one of the Tobago aspirants outside of the PNM have made this book and have something negative about them in this book, the situation is so drastic. They have done so many despicable things that I am certain that we could get another book as big as this. Because you see, brothers and sisters, when we make our decision, we have to make our decision based on the realities of the situation that would have faced us over the last 64 months. In 2010, the people of Trinidad and Tobago made their decision over what had happened over the previous 60 months, the previous 5 years, or the previous 3 years. There's nothing wrong with that. People have a right to make a decision based on how they perceive a government has performed over the last period, and just as importantly, or maybe more importantly, what the other aspirant or aspirants put before them. And that is why we have a situation where tonight, I can not only speak of what my friend called the bad book, but I can also speak of the PNM manifesto, which is the book of hope, the book of confidence, the book that determines how this country is going to go over the next 5 years. Because I tell us, brothers and sisters, as we stand here, and that is why I'm not necessarily in celebratory mood tonight. I'm in a very pensive mood. Because I recognize that a man who has lived a full and long life, that the crisis facing this country is maybe grimmer and more serious than the crisis that has ever faced this country since we gained independence in 1956. That is the reality. And therefore, in a period of crisis, bear in mind, brothers and sisters, as we stand here, today, oil prices hit below $40 for the first time since the economic crisis. China is now, the economy in China is slowing down. And don't believe, brothers and sisters, that that is not your business. All of these things are going to affect us. And therefore, except you have serious people who are prepared to understand that we have a crisis, and therefore they have a responsibility to look the crisis in the face and respond to it, we are going to have serious problems in Trinidad and Tobago, and especially in Tobago. And therefore, that is why I am happy that I am part of a party which over the past 64 months has been discussing, has been planning, has been doing the research, and is able to come up with a document that shows the level of seriousness with which this PNM administration is going to enter government on the 8th of September. We're not going in there vice. We're not going in there and giving false promises. We're not going in there to let the people believe that everything is going to be hunky-dory and that we, in fact, are going to provide you with a panacea for all the challenges facing us. But I'm saying that when one examines the manifesto, and because I know that regardless of what you say, most of us will not read the manifesto, I want to highlight some of the issues that I consider particularly relevant. Because on this PNM platform, you realize that we don't have time for personal attacks. We don't have time to think about or to talk about things that you allege would have happened 10, 15, 20 years ago. We are dealing with the crisis that faces us now and how we have to respond to that crisis. And I'm saying to you that the PNM manifesto is based on the principle, and it's the only way we can do that, that the best way to take care of people is to provide people with the opportunities and to give people the kind of assistance and support and guidance that would allow them to take care of themselves. In other words, we do not believe in the People's National Movement that the way to run a country is to put as much money in as possible in the hands of the government so that that money could be used to enrich yourselves and friends and family. We believe that the best way to run a country is to have a situation where you leave money in people's hands to invest so that the economy would, of course, have a fillip. That you leave money in people's hands to spend so that, again, the economy could, in fact, or the strength of the economy could, in fact, be guaranteed. And that is why we will notice that there are some first-year, 12-month initiatives which this PNM government is going to institute. And for you business people, small and large, one of those incentives is the decrease in VAT from 15% to 12.5%. And what is the reason for that? Not a brag. The thinking behind that is that if you decrease somebody's VAT from 15% to 12.5%, that individual's business is likely to grow. That individual is likely to invest more because you have more savings. And therefore, you end up with a situation, whether it's somebody with a shop out there will be able to change from a shop to a supermarket, whether it is somebody who has a supermarket and they're able to have a chain of supermarkets, whatever, by dropping the percentage of VAT you pay, you put more money in the hands of the people to invest. We're going to have a situation where your personal income tax is going to be, the allowance is going to be increased from $60,000 to $72,000. It means, therefore, that anybody earning $6,000 a month or less will pay absolutely no tax. Again, that is not a bribe. The idea behind that is to put more money in the hands of people. Because you see, we have been operating under a system, if you look at the central bank's policies in recent times, where every time there's a crisis and the government needs more money, or you have a situation where there's a crisis, they raise the interest rate and makes things more difficult for people. The opposite happens in places like the United States. In the United States, what they do is that they free up as much money as possible, and that is what causes the economy to be stimulated. We have a situation where we are not only going to look at the benefits to retirees, but we recognize that your quality of life does not only depend on the amount of money that you have. Your quality of life depends on the services that are made available to you. So when you read the manifesto, what the manifesto speaks to is a retiree benefits program, and not just the promise of increase. That benefit program will include free subsidized public services, free driver's permit, free passports, etc. Again, with respect to agriculture, and there are two aspects of this that I want to share with us as Tobagonians. You have a situation where we have had challenges in this country, especially in certain parts, including Tobago, to encourage people to go back to the land. And I'm saying that if you continue doing the same thing, you are not going to get people to go back to the land. What you're going to get is people coming to you and ask you for land simply to build houses. And therefore, one of the policies which will be introduced is that of trying to encourage people to return to the land. And that's going to be done in two ways. There's going to be duties and tax exemptions in agricultural inputs, an incentive to landowners to revive agriculture. In other words, if you're already a practicing farmer, it's going to mean that they're going to examine what are the kind of incentives that you need in order to make agriculture more lucrative, to make agriculture more marketable in the minds of people. In addition to that, the landowner, you have land, you have free land, or you have wasteland, if you want to put it like that. How do we encourage you to go back to the land? How do we encourage you to make sure that you have the kind of capital investment that will allow you to clear the land, maybe to buy machinery and so on? That is the kind of conversation that we're going to be having with our agriculturists. And to the young people, and the not so young people, one exciting introduction in our manifesto is free island-wide private broadband wireless. One of the things that we are hoping to do in Tobago, and the Tobago House of Assembly is going to be involved in that process. We want to make Tobago, and we might even be able to do all of Tobago before they do all of Trinidad, a place where you have broadband services throughout the island, so that anywhere you go in Tobago, you will not have to log on and get all the challenges, etc. And that is doable. In fact, we have already had a proposal which we are looking at. We didn't have the money to introduce it, but with a central government, a PNM central government that is sympathetic to us, we are certain that that can be done, and done quickly, and most likely delivered within the first 12 to 24 months. And then crime. There's something in the manifesto that speaks to how the PNM thinks and how the PNM expects to do its business. We know that crime in Tobago will be a problem and crime in the country will be a problem. And we do not expect that when you bring in a PNM government, that the PNM government is going to be able to treat with crime immediately. Not going to mamaga you with that. Not going to deal with crime situation in 90 days. But what you have to have is a plan, a holistic plan that treats with crime from different perspectives. And therefore, you treat with crime from the outside coming in. So that the first thing that you're looking at is ensuring that you increase and improve our patrols. All of those things, those Malagai things for 5 years, and that is what these people have done. Debunked ideas and plans and proposals that were meant to bring improvement to the lives of the people and the safety and the comfort of Trinidad and Tobago, simply out of spite and vindictiveness because they wanted the PNM not to get the credit. So that they left our borders exposed. And these are the people who are mainly responsible for the increase in the influx of guns and ammunition, and by extension, the murder rate and other aspects of crime. So one of the first things we're going to do is to revisit that and ensure that we seal off our borders. Within Trinidad and Tobago, again, it is recognized, and it is more obvious in Tobago. One of the best ways of controlling crime is to get people to carry news. And we in Tobago like to carry news, but we don't know who to carry to. And therefore, what the PNM is in fact saying is that they want to have more police officers and have the kind of police officers, a kind of community-oriented police officer, so that the police officer almost becomes a part of the community. And one of the things that they're saying that brings pleasure to my heart is when they're saying in this manifesto, and Champa Kojo and Ayana Webster-Roy are going to ensure that these aspects that affect Tobago are going to be introduced as urgently as possible. One of the things that I find particularly encouraging is when they speak to community policing, when they speak to each sector, including the Tobago House of Assembly. We've been fighting to have assembly police in Tobago for the past 10 years. I was happy when I saw this as a manifesto pledge. And that's one of the first items in our discussion when Dr. Keith Rowley became Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago. And when he invites the Chief Secretary to meet with the Prime Minister, as has not been happening over the past 5 years, one of the first items on the agenda when we have that meeting is Tobago police officers to take care of the Tobago police. But you see, you start on the outside and you're coming in. And the PNM recognizes that in the final analysis, security depends on you. And therefore, you protect your community by passing on information, etc. But they're also saying that one of the things that they are going to do is to encourage and to facilitate and to give incentives to homeowners to install CCTV systems. In other words, there's a recognition that we're spending hundreds of millions of dollars every year to do all the macro things. But if we can in fact use some of those hundreds of millions to tell the owner of that house or over there, listen, if you put in a CCTV system, it's not going to totally eradicate crime, but it's going to alleviate it because people know that you have it installed. It will help the system. So in other words, you bring in crime prevention from outside right inside your house. That is the kind of plan that we have. I'm telling you these things to let you all understand. And then we're going to look at the whole situation of how you can bring the THA, the government, and the private sector closer together. Because one of the big challenges we have in the THA, and they cost us freight, but we don't have a choice. They cost us freight, and they go on the radio and they talk about the percentage of people who are employed by the Tobago House of Assembly. I am saying to us in Tobago, if you have a very small private sector, that can only employ a small number of people, and the THA does not employ them. Who going to employ them? But that is not a situation that can remain tenable for an extended period or can be extended. We therefore need to find ways and means to encourage the private sector and to ensure that we facilitate the private sector in growing. And therefore, one of the recommendations which will become actually implemented in the first year is looking at the whole question of the on-the-job training program. And again, it's going to be done from two levels. One, incentives will be given to the members of the private sector to increase, to encourage them to take on the job trainees. And the stipend for the on-the-job trainees is likely to be addressed. And something that I like, and I'm speaking here as a long-standing politician, and I know the kind of temptations that politicians have, but I'm telling us that the present system does not allow for politicians and all those people who have access to money. Because I want to tell the people of Tobago and the people of the country that the situation with respect to the utilization of public funds for your own personal enrichment is not something in which politicians only are involved. So when you have an integrity commission that treats only with public servants, not now with politicians and high-ranking members on boards, etc., there's still a large number of people in various sectors who are handling public funds and are not, there's nothing to bring them to justice. And that is why when the political leaders spoke about the whole question of unjust enrichment, it is something with being the PNM in Tobago support, and I as Chief Secretary of the Tobago House of Assembly will support. So that you have a situation, rather than just signing up some forms where you can hide your malfeasance, you have to demonstrate where you're getting money. So all those people who are working and getting salaries of $30,000 and $40,000 a month for 5 years, when you do the arithmetic, and they now worth $20 million, the arithmetic wrong explained. That is how the countries of the world do it. You can't explain it. If they don't get you through that, they get you through tax evasion. There are a number of people starting way back in the time of Al Capone. Al Capone was not sent to jail for any crime, any murder or any robbery. You know. He was sent to jail for tax evasion. I am saying to us, therefore, that I am happy that the People's National Movement is taking a frontal approach to this whole idea of utilizing government funds and for your own enrichment. And that is a way that allows us to treat with that. So in addition to dealing with the Integrity Commission and strengthening the Integrity Commission and bringing integrity to the Integrity Commission, the issue of unjust enrichment is going to take place. Brothers and sisters, one of the areas that we're going to look at, of course, is the relationship between the Tobago House of Assembly and the people of Tobago and the central government. And what we are going to be doing is that the section in the manifesto which deals with Tobago, a section which was crafted by us in Tobago. And let me just say, and I want to quote Mr. Imbert. He said, the section in Tobago was crafted and came from the Tobago Council. We looked at it, we agree with it, we did not touch it. So therefore, what the PNM manifesto says about Tobago is what the Tobago Council and by extension the people of Tobago want. And when you read it, there are two words that are of critical importance. It will speak to facilitate and support. And there's a reason why we use those two words, facilitate and support. Because we want to make it very clear to the central government, whether it's a central government under Kamla Prasad Bisesa or a central government under Keith Christopher Rowley, we in the Tobago House of Assembly want to make every central government understand that where Tobago people's business is concerned, the Tobago House of Assembly is in charge. And therefore, in those circumstances, what we want the central government to do are two things. One, those things for which you have responsibility, you take responsibility and you deliver. Those things for which you do not have responsibility, you leave to the Tobago House of Assembly and you facilitate and support the Tobago House of Assembly in ensuring that it can carry out its duties effectively. And it is in that context, and I'm happy that in front of thousands of people, both at the Woodford Square and at Roxborough, the soon-to-be Prime Minister, Dr. Keith Rowley, told all of the country and all of Tobago that the question of self-government for Tobago is going to be addressed expeditiously, but just as critically, that it is going to be addressed according to the demands of the people of Tobago as set out after consultation with the people of Tobago. Nobody could stand on a platform and give that assurance. Kamla Prasad Bisesa is telling us that she's going to have a referendum. We've been talking about this thing for 40 years. The last set of discussion has been going on for 5 years. And then you telling us, after ignoring what we sent to you, after trying to force a Mama Guy document on us, you telling us that all you can offer us after 64 months is to tell us you will have a referendum. And I am asking, are there people in Tobago who not seen through that? I am saying to us, brothers and sisters, and somebody mentioned it, the question of land tenure. Again, Mama Guy set up committee. Then the last couple of months of his tenure as Minister of Tobago, call meeting in Signal Hill, make promise. When you check it out, nothing significant has happened. When in effect, and that is the wickedness, and I don't use this kind of language, but that is wickedness, because in 2010, there were 3 bills. Mr. Kalindan and Mr. Domas, who were there, will tell you, in 2010, there were 3 bills. And those 3 bills did, in fact, were actually drafted to ensure that they took care of the business of land tenure in Tobago once and for all. But because they knew that if they carry those 3 bills through Parliament, Tobagoans will know that it is a PNM-initiated bill and a PNM-initiated process. They don't do it. And for 5 years, we still ain't doing nothing. So it will be very easy. Even if we are going to have serious financial challenges, there are things that we can do because we have a central government that is sensitive to the needs of us in Tobago. We have a central government that will recognize that all that is needed to bring some temporary relief to us with respect to our transportation. All that is in fact needed is to have a couple more buses sent to this island. It's not going to cost $100 million. An increase in 15 or 20 buses will make a significant difference to us with respect to transportation. And I want to say something, because you have to follow us. I'm advising you to follow us in Tobago to our meetings, because this manifesto has so many different facets and so many different areas that are important to us, that you must come with us, listen to us as we roll out other important aspects of the manifesto over the next 2 weeks. Because I'm saying to you that this is a very serious phase in the development of Tobago. And therefore, by all means, come to our meetings. By all means, listen to our music and dance and sing and jollify yourself as they say. But recognize that September the 7th is decision day. And the decisions you make will determine the kind of government and the kind of leadership that will be in position to treat with this crisis. Because you see, we had a situation and we had a conversation. I just want to end here because we have a time constraint. We had a conversation with respect to the international airport. And that conversation was whether we should, in fact, focus on refurbishing the airport, focus on renovating the airport. And in that conversation with the national government, we concluded that what Tobago wants, if Tobago is to be able to compete with its competitors in the tourism sector, if we as Tobagonians are able to treat with going from one place to the other and having people come to us in safety and dignity and comfort, what we want in Tobago is not a refurbished airport, but a brand new airport. And therefore, in the PNM manifesto, that is what is going to be promised to the people of Tobago. I'm saying to our brothers and sisters that we have been on the campaign trail now for maybe 2.5 months, the longest campaign ever in the history of Trinidad and Tobago. But there are other negative records that this lady has. But I'm saying that you're going to find as we move into the next 2 weeks, the posture of our speakers and the tenor of our campaign is going to change, because this speaks to the past, a past that we must not forget, a past that should assist us in making the decision as to what not to do and who not to support. And I'm saying to us, brothers and sisters, that you cannot support Kamala Persad-Bissessar and the UNC. And if you cannot support Kamala Persad-Bissessar and the UNC, you cannot support Ashwood Drack and the TOP and his two people. What's his name? I can't remember the name. It is so unimportant. You cannot support Chrislyn Moore and the TOP forwards, I call them, because they're just an adjunct to the TOP. Because all of them are aligned to this book, which speaks to the tenor of Kamala Persad-Bissessar and the UNC. But I'm saying to us, we as Tobagonians must also look at the other book, the book of hope, the book that allows us to recognize that despite the challenges that we are facing, despite the fact that the country and the region are teetering on another economic crisis, another economic precipice, that we have an opportunity to give ourselves hope and confidence in our future. And just as the PNM has done it in the past, as a party, we have provided the guidance. As a party, we have provided the leadership. As a party, we have provided the representation. And just as we have done so many times over the past 5 or 6 decades, we are doing it again in 2015. And that is why I stand in Plymouth this evening to present to you in this time of crisis, to present to you our crisis managers. I present to you the Tobago crisis managers, the persons who are going to be the Tobago standard bearers as we treat with the country's concerns and bring this country back to decency and good governance and stability in Tobago East, Ayana Webster-Roy, and in Tobago West, Tobago. That is why I can present to you and endorse the PNM team, 41 committed, capable individuals who, together with their leader, will do what is necessary. That is why I can with pride and pleasure commend to you our Tobago brother, a man who understands crisis, a man who understands challenge, a man who has never shirked from his responsibility, regardless of how daunting the situation is. A man, it seems as if he has in fact been trained for this job because of the experiences that he has had. An experienced man, a committed man, a good Tobago man, and therefore I also, and all of you, I'm certain, endorse Keith Christopher Rowley as the Prime Minister to lead us out of this crisis. And therefore, brothers and sisters, and to all of you at home, I want to just end by reiterating the sentiments of all the speakers, that this election is not just about the PNMites. This election is about all Tobagonians who care about their future, who care about their children, who care about their heritage. All Tobagonians who wish to give themselves hope of a future which is predictable, a future which they can guarantee that as bad as this situation is, it will improve. And it is in that context, and the fact that I have confidence in the good sense and the integrity of Tobagonians, not only those of you here at Plymouth, but all of you listening to us in Radio Land. It is with the confidence that you will do the right thing, because it is the right thing to do for you. It is the confidence that all of Tobago will do that enough of Trinidad will do that, so that the right decision will be made on September the 7th. And when that right decision is made, and all of us understand and recognize that the country is back on the path that we have strayed from over the past 64 months, when we know we have done the right thing, and when we know the right things will start to happen, then we can say with confidence and pride, the PNM has come to the rescue of Trinidad and Tobago once again, and we can say, great is the PNM, great is the PNM, and it shall be. May God bless you.